Capitals lose Daniel Sprong in a 4th and 6th rounder, but pick up Marcus Johansson. The Caps sign Johan Larsson as a depth forward. I talk about the state of the Capitals and how the injuries will affect their push for the playoffs. And then I talk about the Caps' next game against the Blues. Locked On Capitals starts right now.
Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this very special live edition of Locked On Capitals podcast, Trade Edition. As always, this podcast is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Thank you for making this your first listen or view of the day. Today's podcast is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. and tell them Locked On sent you. So in this episode, we will talk about the trade activity of the Washington Capitals. The Capitals bring back Marcus Johansson to the district. Then we will talk about the current state of the Capitals. We'll talk about the signing of Johan Larsson. And then in the final segment, we will talk about the Caps schedule ahead, most notably the Blues Tuesday night. So today, the biggest news starting off today was that the Washington Capitals signed Marcus Johansson. Yes, that Marcus Johansson that you remember from several years ago. Well, he's back and a part of the Washington Capitals. The Caps acquired a 31-year-old Marcus Johansson on a 1-year, $1.5 million cap hit. They retained 50% of his salary from the Kraken. So you can add that. It's a $25,000 net cap hit. Johansson has a 1.5 cap hit and is on an expiring contract. In 51 games, he's got 6 goals and 17 assists. And Caps Nation, what do you guys think about bringing Marcus Johansson back? It seems like he was someone that had some flashes of greatness, but he didn't always maintain that level. But I think that at this point, the Washington Capitals picked up Marcus Johansson because they got him on the cheap. So a good move, a good depth forward signing for the Capitals, and it remains to be seen where he fits into the scheme on the forward line with the Washington Capitals. I know that the Washington Capitals have some injuries as of late. TJ Oshie and Lars Eller was under COVID protocol. He's back now, but you always got to kind of plan for the future. As you know, injuries are always looming, and it's better to kind of stockpile some players so you're ready for your push for the playoffs. Johansson, 31, recorded 23 goals in 51 games with the Kraken this season. The 6'1", 203-pound forward played 7 seasons with Washington from 2010 to 2017, compiling 290 points, 102 goals and 188 assists in 501 games. Johansson has been a winger on Kraken's second line. He's a left shot who can play all 3 forward positions, which gives Coach Laviolette plenty of flexibility. And that's what you need. You need someone that can kind of be plug and play because you never know who's going to be injured from night to night. The Kraken hosted Detroit on Saturday night and play at Arizona tomorrow, so it'll probably be a while before Mojo gets to DC. The Caps host St. Louis tomorrow. So, I mean, it doesn't sound like he'll probably be there tomorrow, but I think they're okay for now. And it'll be good to have him, back in the lineup as a depth guy. I don't want to fool myself into thinking that he's going to be the Marcus Johansson of years ago, but a good depth pickup nonetheless. So full deal, Marcus Johansson to Capitals for Daniel Sprong. I'm a little bit bummed that he left, but he never kind of really lived up to his potential. And a 2022 4th rounder and a 2023 6th rounder. Seattle will retain 50% of Johansson's salary. So that's kind of always a good deal there too, where, they're not out that much money. Johansson, 6 goals, 23 points in 51 games played. Sprong, 8 goals, 14 points in 46 games played. So It on paper, it is an upgrade. Sprong is definitely younger than Johansen, but I think that the Capitals knew what they had in Marcus Johansson, and that's why they decided to bring him back. And just in light of everything that's happened, all season and pretty much throughout all of the time, the Washington Capitals, as they make their push to the playoffs, they sustain injuries just like you do in all major sport. So it's good to pick up these depth forwards. It remains to be seen who will be coming out of the lineup with Marcus Johansson getting inserted. The Kraken now have 12 draft picks for 2022, 13 for 2023, and 9 draft picks for 2024, in addition to having the $8.5 million in cap space. That's per cap friendly. They have also retained 3 contracts with Giordano, Joran Kruk, and Johansen as well. When asked if Johansen could play tomorrow, Coach Laviolette said, "We'll see." But I don't know if that would necessarily be the case, if he would just get entered into play that quickly. Versatility was the key for the Caps in acquiring Johansen. Can play both wings, center in a pinch, special teams, and on lines 1 and 3. Once we get settled in and get the guys back and healthy, we'll figure where the line combinations go, Laviolette said. And as you know, the Capitals have kind of been next man up all season. As of right now, they had Brett Leeson up, and then earlier in the week, it was Vecchione. But if you think about throughout the season, there was Protas in there. So the Capitals have been having to draw from the AHL affiliate Hershey Bears. So maybe I think what they're looking to do here primarily is pick up some veterans as they make this push for the playoffs. Now, this is a team that Brian McClellan said he would not make any major moves. And as I'm recording this at 3:06 Central, there could still be some moves that we will find about after the fact. And if there are any, I will make sure and let you know all about it. But as it stands right now, the Capitals did not address one of their biggest needs, and that was goaltending. I guess I don't know if they have faith in Samsonov or if they think they're going to pull Fucali up from AHL. Like I say, it's still a little bit early. We may find out here in the coming hours that they picked up someone. Sprong says he was surprised that he was dealt. Shortly after hearing that Johansen was headed to DC, he got pulled into the coach's office at MedStar and told he had been traded to Seattle. So, I mean, I'm happy for Sprong. I hope that he gets an opportunity in Seattle. I think that he's got kind of that physical game to him. He's not afraid of mixing it up. He's got a good shot, and he's got some pretty good wheels. So I think that he will fit in pretty well with a Seattle team that is, kind of new. It has some younger players and some older players. So hopefully he can get in there and find a spot. And, he's not going to be a healthy scratch every night like he was primarily on the Washington Capitals towards the end there. And then in this second acquisition that happened, probably within the last half hour, Johan Larsson is coming, left wing center off just recently off sports hernia surgery. He was supposed to return full practice, but I'm told they canceled practice. Arizona gets a 2023 third-round pick from Washington for Johan Larsson. The Coyotes retained 50% on Larsson. So another one of those things where they're kind of retaining some of the salary and the Capitals are kind of spending within their budget wisely. As things stand now, it would seem that Larsson fits as a Hagelin replacement. The 29-year-old Swede is a very good defensive forward who used almost exclusively at center in Arizona, but can also skate on the wing. This season, he has 6 goals, 9 assists in 29 games with Arizona. Like I say, he was coming off sports hernia surgery. So another one I would consider a depth signing. I don't think they're going to pull any of the regular starters off the lineup to plug these guys in. But like I've said so far here, you have to be prepared for what's next. As there's always injuries popping up, and you always find out about after the fact. Like many times, Alex Ovechkin has played through injuries. That's where it came from. Russian machine never breaks, because, he's a tough guy and he plays through anything. But I mean, if, some big prominent players like Ovechkin and Backstrom or, Oshie, who's already been injured, Carlson, some of the nucleus of the Washington Capitals, you need to plug someone in that's going to be able to perform at a high level. I know you can get some pretty good production out of these AHL players, but I think as they make this push for the playoffs, they want to have the optimal players playing out there on the ice if they hope to do anything in the playoffs. And it's an encouraging sign for the Washington Capitals because they played strongly all month. They only have one regulation loss in the month of March. So, I mean, things are just going along so well for the Capitals, and we hope that the continued success for them. So, after the break, I will talk about the Capitals. Will the injuries impact their push for the playoffs? But first, it's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and players' props, BetOnline is the number one source for all your sports and betting needs. You guys love March Madness? I love it. And that's why I like BetOnline. You can get in and part of the action. It kind of makes you more interested in the game because you know you have money on the game. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online, where the game starts. So check out Locked On now for all the news around the NHL from our group of local experts. It's free and available on all platforms. So if you want to get the rundown on everything that happened today, not just the Capitals, but NHL wide, head over and check out Locked On now, and you will be up to speed on everything that is going on in the NHL. So the Caps come off their first regulation loss in March. It's time for the Caps to buckle down as they make their push for the playoffs. The Capitals still have a big decision in net. Is it going to be Sammy or Fucale as the number 2? Or are they going to pick up someone here within the next, I don't know. Will we find out something here later that something was in the works? We'll find out. But as it stands right now, it's Ilya Samsonov and Fucale. I think that they should give Zach Fucale more of a shot. I think that Ilya Samsonov, who played a good game, the last game there, that he played, but consistency is where Ilya suffers from. It's stringing together those wins game after game. And I think to a certain extent, the Capitals kind of looked at Ilya Samsonov as the number one netminder in the Washington Capitals organization. And I think that that's why they have given him opportunity after opportunity. Ilya is someone who has had flashes of greatness, but like I've talked about there, his inconsistency is what is worrisome. And you take Zach Fucale, who this month had 3 shutouts. That was a Hershey Bears record. And earlier in the season, when Zach Fucale was playing for the Capitals, for the most part, he played lights out. Now, we know that the Washington Capitals are not going to pick up Braden Holtby. There was an injury to Khudobin in Dallas, so they need him as a backup. It's Ottinger as the starter. And I think that a lot of the Capitals were kind of pining to have Braden Holtby come back. Braden Holtby, after all, was the goaltender on record as the Capitals won the Stanley Cup in 2018. But alas, it does not appear as though that is going to be the case this year. It's always possible that they could pick up Braden Holtby in the offseason, but ultimately, I don't think that that's a good idea. Going back to older players just because you have good memories associated with them is not always sound judgment, if you ask me. And one of the players that you can take off that list is Marc-Andre Fleury. So he was a name that was linked to the Washington Capitals as a potential landing spot. And Marc-Andre Fleury, I think, ultimately did not want to come to the Capitals because of his history with the Penguins. As you know, that the Penguins and the Caps are bitter rivals that have gone back and forth for years. And so I think there's some bad blood there. And also, if you remember, Marc-Andre Fleury was the goaltender on record for the Golden Knights when the Caps took down the Golden Knights in 2018 to win the Stanley Cup. So unless they backed up the Brinks truck to his house and said, take all the money you want, I don't think that that was going to happen. So Marc-Andre Fleury heads off to the Minnesota Wild. A team that is kind of on the brink. They made some splashes, and check out Locked On Wild to hear about all the moves that were made there. But I think that the Wild are in a good position now to do well. They were a team that was a bit on the brink. So it'll remain to be seen if Marc-Andre Fleury will be able to push them over the top and propel them into bigger and better things. And just some news here. The Capitals are kind of courting another goaltender. On the college free agent front, I'm hearing the Caps have interest in Dartmouth goalie Clay Stevenson. The 6'4" native of BC had a strong season for the Big Green, posting a .922 save percentage and a 2.70 goals against average. Washington is among several NHL clubs interested. And that's the one thing you got to give it to the Caps for, is they always draft great goalies. If you just look back over time, or they find a way to just get him into their organization. I think back on Phoenix Copley, or at the times Ilya Samsonov, who was someone that was lauded as a great goaltender, and it remains to be seen how he will play. But the Capitals just have a good scouting department. They always seem to find great goaltending. If you look back through time, there's never been a stretch, maybe I guess a little bit this year, but other than that, where the Washington Capitals have struggled in net. So maybe he will turn into someone for the Capitals. It remains to be seen if he will decide on signing with the Capitals. It was noted here that Stevenson was watching the practice today at the Caps MedStar Ice Complex. So maybe there's a little bit of fire to that smoke, but I guess it remains to be seen. I would welcome that, because if you look at the goaltenders they have, and they take a while to kind of mature and make their way through the NHL and the AHL. So right now you have Vitek Vanacek and you have Ilya Samsonov, but you got to kind of keep your eyes to the horizon. As it stands right now, the Washington Capitals are the oldest team in the NHL. And, Father Time is coming for us all, and the Capitals have got to be prepared. I know they're in a win now mode, but they don't want to give up future draft picks. And they don't want to sell the farm to win right now. Because if you do that, you take a look at a team like the Detroit Red Wings, who has kind of wandered in the wilderness for a while. They were kind of a dynasty for many years, but then all their players either got old or got traded away. And then they were pretty horrible for quite a few years. So if there is a team to look after, and I hate to bring up this team because I know it is a bitter rival to the Washington Capitals, but I would say the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers went through a rebuild, and it wasn't this big, long, and laborious rebuild. It was one that went pretty flawlessly. I think it was maybe, I don't know, a one season or a season and a half that they weren't that good. But look at them now. They are currently in third place. If memory serves, the Caps kind of have their eyes set on them right now. But they are a team that, for that year and a half, they were pretty horrible. But with new coaching and sprinkling in some more veteran players, I think that the Rangers are pretty good. So bringing that back to the Capitals, I don't think that a rebuild needs to be painful. I think that, obviously, just kind of in the Braden Holtby situation, you kind of miss players that you have to part with. But, win now mode comes at a price. And you don't want, like I say, you don't want to give away a bunch of futures just to win right now. Because then, one day Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom and TJ Oshie and John Carlson, etc., those guys will no longer be a part of the Capitals. And you have to be ready with this next batch. Your Hendrix Lapierre, your McMichael, your Faravari, your Leeson, your Protas, your Fucali. These are the future of the Washington Capitals, and we better get used to it. These are going to be the guys that are going to be the face of the franchise. And, as it stands right now, we can kind of look to the Washington Capitals and be proud that they're a part of, and we're proud that we're a part of the history of the Washington Capitals, especially with Alex Ovechkin, as this is truly a milestone month. This is what it's going to be known for in 2022 is milestone March 2022 for Alex Ovechkin. He's broke so many milestones this month, and he was poised to break a lot more of them. And just kind of looking at the Capitals right now and just taking stock, and know that you were watching them when there were so many greats on ice. We'll talk about in future years about the Backstrom Ovechkin line together and how well they played together. And just like I say, just keep your eyes on the future because I know that it's you in a perfect situation. You'd like to keep all the players that you have. But like I say, everyone is getting older. So no supplemental discipline from the Department of Player Safety for Jamie Benn's play on John Carlson during yesterday's Caps Stars game. I think that was a dirty hit, but alas, the Department of Player Safety said it wasn't. And John Carlson, he is one that we do not need to be without. So I wish they would have kind of given him some sort of punishment. Otherwise, that reinforces that kind of play that Jamie Benn had. Oshie was on the ice for optional skate today. Dowd on the ice in a non-contact jersey. So this is what I'm talking about, that depth. Oshie and Dowd out right now. You need that depth as you make your push for the playoffs. An update on Caps, TJ Oshie, lower body on the ice for optional practice. A normal jersey. Dowd, upper body, is wearing a non-contact jersey. No John Carlson or Trevor Van Riemsdyk at optional skate. That is the news that we do not want to hear. So hopefully the injury to John Carlson and Trevor Van Riemsdyk, they don't need any more injuries on the blue line. So hopefully the injury sustained to both of them is not too severe. I know that Trevor Van Riemsdyk has missed a couple of games, but hopefully John Carlson will not miss that much time. So after the break, I will talk about the Caps game Tuesday night against the Blues and the schedule ahead. But first, this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for you to find local chain auto parts. So why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only what they have on hand? You know, what I found is it's easier just to kind of sit back in the recliner and order my auto parts. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. To have everything you could need, brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet, Rock Auto has got you covered. Go explore their easy-to-use website to find the solution for your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on. And how did you hear about us section so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Thank you, Rock Auto. So in this segment, the Capitals, their next game they play is Tuesday night, and it's against the St. Louis Blues, and that is a team that they have to be prepared for. They are a team that is in second place. Ahead of them is the Avalanche, and so, I mean, everything's going to have to be firing on all cylinders for the Washington Capitals. The Capitals take on the St. Louis Blues Tuesday night. They look to build on their winning month, which has only seen them lose one game in regulation. And like I say, you know, last week, if I would have told you that the Capitals, you know, would just go on this long winning streak, or even a couple weeks ago, you would have said no. Brian McClellan said that they're kind of in sell mode and, you know, to pack it up and it's all done for the season. Don't tell that to the Washington Capitals, because they are ratcheting it up. And what are the things that you can draw from? Why are the Capitals playing so well right now? Two things. One, the return of Vitek Vanacek. As you know, he missed most of February with that injury. He got injured in that game against Pittsburgh where he kind of took it right under the chin. And then he missed most of the month of February. And then it was pretty much the goalie carousel. It was Ilya Samsonov. It was Phoenix Copley. And neither one of those guys really gained any real traction. So Vitek Vanacek coming back kind of was that calming force and solidified the netminding position. So that's one thing. And number two, and this is a more recent one, is the return of Anthony Mantha. His presence has really been felt out there. And I don't know what Anthony Mantha did in the off or during his injury, but he returned pretty much 100%. And rarely do you see that, a player coming back at 100%. So whatever he did, he seemed like he came back in perfect cardiovascular health. He wasn't winded out there. I know a lot of times they say that, you know, it takes a while to get your legs underneath you. Don't tell that to Anthony Mantha. He was flying up and down the ice, played very well, and he's got that good goal scoring touch. But one of the things I seen that he added to his game, and it was the game against Carolina. Carolina brought it physically. Make no mistake about it. And they're going to be playing them again next week. Is Carolina brought a physical game. Brind'Amour is the coach there. That's his style of hockey. If you look at his nose, it tells the whole story. That's just kind of the guy he is. They are a physical team that brings it all the time, and the Capitals had to be ready. And, it took the likes of Tom Wilson, it took Hathaway, and even Mantha, who's got that big frame out there, but generally speaking, not a physical player out there. He was even mixing it up with players. And then one of the most odd things I saw on the ice was Nick Backstrom. And I don't know, as far as I can recall, I don't ever recall Nick Backstrom dropping the gloves, but before the commercial break there, it looked like he was ready to throw down. So you could tell things were getting serious in that game against Carolina. So it's going to be a tough schedule ahead. The Blues are 34-18 with 77 points. They are in second place in the Central Division. The Avalanche are in first place with 93 points. So quite a gap there. I do not think the Blues will catch them. I just don't think there's enough runway, but they will assuredly make the playoffs. The Blues were active and picked up a defenseman, Nick Leddy. So the Blues are making some big moves out there too. And like I say, they are a team that oftentimes gives the Washington Capitals fits, and they're kind of stockpiling here too. The Blues are playing well, so the Caps have to be ready for a big opponent. The Caps play Buffalo in New Jersey this weekend. So, not really teams that are playing that well, but both of those teams are not playing well, like I said, and they are must-win games. You cannot lose a game against Buffalo or New Jersey. And I know that Buffalo would love nothing more to play spoiler. And they've done that as much in these last couple games that they played. If you remember that game against Toronto. And, I think that this Buffalo team is on the cusp of bigger and better things. I think that they're not playing that well right now, but that is a team kind of like a perennial underdog that's always like, one day we will be a better team. I think that day is on the horizon for the Buffalo Sabres. And anyway, I think that they would love nothing more than to play spoiler against the Washington Capitals, as they know the Capitals are making a push for the playoffs. So they would like to, I think teams, when they're like, we're out of it, we're not going to make the playoffs, it really doesn't matter. I think they take pride. I know they take pride in beating these teams that are poised to make playoff runs. And that is who the Washington Capitals. So both Buffalo and New Jersey, not really great teams, I got to be honest. So the Caps play Carolina again this Monday. Next week, Monday. That will be a physical game, and Carolina will be out for revenge. As you know, the Washington Capitals beat them the last time they played them, but I think they have it within them to take this team down again, because at that point, Marcus Johansson and Johan Larsson will probably be in the lineup. So if any of those ailing Caps are out for any extended period of time, hopefully they can plug those guys in, and it'll be like a flawless transition, because we're making this push. And like I talked about earlier, Brian McClellan talked about it, and I even talked about it earlier, is it seemed like this Capitals team was done this season. Put a fork in them. They're done. But then they ratcheted it up. They just kind of took it to the next level. They're like, no, we know how to do this. We won a Stanley Cup. And don't write this Capitals team off. They are poised to make a great push into the playoffs. Look at me right now. The Capitals will do great things if they solidify goaltending, if they work out their issues in defense, and now they got those depth forwards. I think the Capitals are sitting in a really good position. They just need to go out there and do what they do best, and that's play Capitals hockey. And what is Capitals hockey? That is a pedigree of winning. That's a pedigree of never say die. And it's just a team that always has their foot on the gas. This team is pushed, and they're poised to make their push for the playoffs. All right, that is the Locked On Capitals podcast for today. This is the live edition, and if this is your first time watching it or listening to it, thank you very much. Make sure and hit the follow or subscribe button if you're listening to this next day on a podcatcher, or if you're watching this on YouTube. If you want to hear more Caps news, we do these podcasts 5 days a week. So I've got you covered on your Caps news. And if we're not doing a podcast that night, go to Locked On Caps on Twitter, and I'm tweeting out Caps news 7 days a week. So we've got you covered here on Locked On Caps. Now tune in to Locked On Fantasy Hockey with hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone, where they break down all the day's activity. That will be at 3:30 Central. So what you want to do when this podcast is done, I'm going to click the button here, go over to Locked On Fantasy, and Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone are going to break down all the moves that happen in the NHL. Not just the moves with the Washington Capitals, but NHL-wide. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to spend all your time on TSN or ESPN. Go to Locked On Fantasy. They've got you covered for all the moves that happened today on the trade deadline. There weren't all the big moves that I thought they were going to make, But thank you for watching and or listening to this episode, this live edition of Locked On Capitals. Have a great day.